back again. And what are we doing today? Well, we're doing something electronic. And in this case, it's to do with my little Etrex. It's ancient by these days, or by today's standards. I bought this brand new close to 14 years ago. In fact, a little bit longer, when I first joined the Army Reserves, which I ended up getting discharged from on medical grounds for a condition I now know was MS. Anyway, because of that MS, I have limited eyesight now at the moment. It has damaged my retina. So once a month I go in and get infusions, and it comes good for a bit. I've just recently had an infusion, and my eyesight hasn't quite come good yet. Usually takes a few days. So I'm going to see how I go with this, but you're going to have to deal with me being a little bit slow with some things. Anyway, let's get on with this GPS. So I want to download all my track data from this. Now, it does this by an RS-232 protocol, also known as serial, through these four little connections here. Now, years ago, and I can't find it now, I got a piece of prototype board and some pins and soldered it all in and made a little improvised card connector for this that went straight to a serial connector. My apprentice is having some malfunctions of her own. You can probably hear her in the background. Anyway, some years later I found that the Chinese are manufacturing copies of these connectors, and they clip in very nicely, like so. The problem is they use a PL232, or sorry, what's the connector here? I'm going to have to look that up again. One moment. Right, a quick search in that little cut. These use a Chinese PL2302 or 2303 chip clone from the, it's a serial, USB to serial bridge chip, and they use a clone. Now Windows 10 recently has done something really funny with the drivers. And if I load up the older driver to make it work again, instead of the ones that Prolific released that basically stop these chips working, Windows pretty well puts it back to the driver that it's using again every time I reboot. And I'm having some trouble disabling driver signature enforcement and all the other crap that you do with that I have been doing for years. But typical of Windows, it works until a point and then stops working. I won't make any reference on Mac because I have equally as many problems with them, and Linux may or may not work, but at this point I haven't dual booted on a new system yet. Anyway, it's all round much easier to do a different solution. Now this lead, there isn't anything fancy in this lead aside from in that little adapter. I'm thinking about cutting this lead off and putting in a good old DB9 connector on here. Now my previous workstation still has 9-pin serial built into the main board, along with SATA and IDE and floppy. It's a really nice, interesting beast of a board, and it takes a 6-core Xeon X5650 CPU, and I think 24 gig of RAM. It does pretty well, but the new system has got, I've still got to learn this new system. Let me have a look. It's got a Ryzen 9 3950X or X3950. Anyway, it's got a PCI slot or PCI Express slot. I'm going to use a serial card here to give me some serial port functionality back again, because I do so many of these low-level old-style things. I mean, you would probably recall if you've been watching my channel for a while where I connected to an Amiga this way to get some data back, before people trolled me to the point where I wanted to shoot the thing. And if you're an avid watcher, you'll probably notice I haven't actually released a video of shooting that. And if you signed up to my Patreon, which nobody did, you would have seen the video where I explained that I'm not actually shooting it. But nobody really cares about that. Anyway, I'm going to install this card and see if I can get the drivers to work under Windows 10. And then we'll move on to modifying this lead. A little additional comment here. It's worth noting that I need to get the data off this for the purposes of my next video. So let's get cracking. Alright, so we're looking inside the side of my snazzy case, which I've had to move because modern cases that are not industrial machines only come with a left-hand opening door, which is really irritating. Now, lighting in here might be a little bad. Give me a moment, I'll turn on some form of lighting. This is about all I've got. I'm inside the new machine, which I successfully blew up all the RGB LEDs in, and a couple of the RGB ports on the motherboard, but that's not really essential to the functioning of it, and I really wasn't interested in that anyway. At least that's the excuse, I'm sticking to it. Now, there is also this thing in here. It's a little adapter for USB C or USB 3.1, I think it is, to go to the port on the front. That I think that's buggered too. Anyway, so I need to find a spare PCI Express slot. I think there is, and I think I need a screwdriver. And bring in a camera to a screwdriver fight. All right, yeah, that's going to go up that way. I think it's going to use the bottom slot, which I think suits me just fine. Gives plenty of airflow in the video card. Okay, missing thumb screw. Move the backing plate, which doesn't look like it's really doing a lot. It's just a slotted plate. Where are we? Tiny little slots. I'm used to ISA slots and Visa slots and stuff like that from the really old machines. And I sound old. I'm right up against the microphone. I could make ASMR videos this way. In fact, I have to look up what that acronym even means. I think it's audio stimulation something. I don't recall. I did look it up once, but my reason for needing to know that has been limited. All right. Here's our card installed. And no jumpers to change. I know that sounds like you're going to be like, what? Motherboards have jumpers? Well, when I started with the things in 386 days, they had jumpers for everything. And I think it's going to bug somebody's OCD that this isn't straight. It certainly is bugging mine. So we're going to loosen that, pull that up a bit, and tighten it up in the correct position. Okay, let's get out of this case. At least it has a nice magnetic door on this thing. Tempered glass door. It's a Fantex P900 or P600. I can't remember which one. It's got a funny LED strip to here, which I have now unplugged because I blew up the red channel. And it's a tempered glass case, but I designed my case for, or my desk, I custom built it for industrial machines, which open to the right. This opens to the left. So all we see is a nice black panel. Doesn't matter. And in the about month or so that I've had this in here, I'd sucked a heap of dust onto that front panel, but luckily that's easy to remove and clean. And the dust filters on the top are all magnetic. All right, let's plug in a serial lead. I think I've got a serial extension lead somewhere. I've got to find it now. I'll be back. All right, upon powering up the computer, I see that it seems to have installed and recognized the card without any trouble. I'm not sure where COM1 come from, but these are obviously the PCIe connections. I wonder if there isn't a pin header for a COM port on that motherboard somewhere. I'll have to read the manual. In any case, I have it presented at the back, and I have an LPT port, which strangely will be useful at some point. Anyway, I now have a bigger problem. I've gone looking for serial leads, and I'm starting to actually run low for like the first time in history. I found this guy who is a serial connector, but it's not an extender. It needs to be male to female. And I've actually found, you know what, I've just had a thought. Now, I have a female connector here, which I intended to put onto the lead, which is how leads should be. And I have this reusable housing that I had intended to use for that lead. But I have this serial extender, which is something I'm unlikely to use. I actually have some serial gender benders somewhere, but I can't find them either. That could convert that easily to a male connection. But I do have a header or riser card somewhere that's got a male plug on it. I might be able to make one. Or I can just forget about testing the serial port and bringing it around the front, and I can just make this lead up and see if it works. That would be easier. I'm going to do some thinking. I'll be back. So I've decided I'm going to go down the easy route and just chop and join this. Now I was going to convert this, but this is actually an OBD connector for Deutsch tractor, I think. I think it is, or it might be New Holland. I can't remember which one uses this OBD connector. I was unsuccessful and I actually didn't get the whole connector. I ended up using hot glue on this. So probably no love lost if I chop that up, but I don't think I will right now. I think I'm just going to use these two. So this looks to be molded. I had hoped to crack this open and inspect, and I want the maximum amount of lead possible on this. I think I'm going to chop this with just enough length that if I'm really stupid I can reconnect it, but I think at this point there's really only going to be 4 wires in there, maybe even 3. So let's get this cracking. Let's chop this. Alright, at this point I'm going to reach off camera and turn on soldering iron. And I'll get our suction fan in place in a moment. I'll do a bit of setup on camera just because it gives me more time to yak useless stuff. So I'm going to guess around about that lead is going to be just enough to reconnect it. Point of no return, guys. I can't go back from this. Alright. So, now, I'm going to use a special tool on this one, which won't come out because my apprentice has rearranged my top drawer for me, and nothing comes out because this was the culprit. This big box was wedging itself against the inside of the drawer. Good times. Having an apprentice can be a problem sometimes. We're going to peel this out like that. Saves me slashing them cables. Now this is the point where I start to have trouble seeing because I'm missing bits of my visual field, predominantly right in my center of focus, which means I'm looking at these colors here and I can make out the red and the green, but the contrast against here, it looks like I'm looking at static, so black and white stuff is a bit of a challenge. So we're just going to have to go over this, and light intensity doesn't make a difference. In fact, it makes it worse. So before somebody says turn on a light, these look to be fairly standard colors. I'm thinking I'm going to have, oh, I hope that the ferrite core here isn't something other than a ferrite core. I think the chip's in here, to be honest. But these look like USB colors. So I am going to have to do a pin out and find out which one is which. Well, I guess I was going to have to do that anyway. I think there is indications on the back of the connector. We'll have a look. Get these nicely twisted. The back of the connector here, I think if I put it just right, I can see positive here, negative here, input and output. That might make my life real easy with a multimeter. Let's tin these bits though before they fray and cause me a problem. I'm going to be hugging the camera here. I'm going to clean my soldering iron in the wire wool. This is actually a steel coated copper tip that I've had for years, and I finally did too much plastic with it and buggered it up, so I had to clean it with a tiny bit of sandpaper, and there's some copper exposed through it. Let's turn on my outlet fan, which is a bit noisy, guys. I haven't fixed that yet, but side effect is that the tip does actually work a lot better. Now, I was very gentle with the sandpaper, and I knew that I ran the risk of screwing it up. I do have a spare tip somewhere, but this is an old Weller iron, back when Weller was good. I can't see what I'm doing. Look, this probably looks really like I'm bad at it and I'm shaky, but I'm having problems with my nerves doing what they're told today. So I used to work on hearing aids, would you believe, with 0.25mm thick multi-stranded wire that was enameled, and when you touch it with solder it would splay out, and it was horrible stuff. I used to work in a stereoscopic microscope. I have a feeling that I probably couldn't do that now. Alright, so we've got our couple of leads here that have already been used on this, but I'm going to have to remove that junk anyway. So we'll get this tip cleaned up. So we'll turn our fan back on and we'll find some tweezers. Luckily my apprentice didn't rearrange my bottom drawer, so I think I can find my angled headed tweezers. There's spudgers and tweezers. Here we go. So if I'm lucky, and if I can actually see what I'm doing, which I really can't right now, we'll pull this out. I'm trying to hit that solder cup and pull that out. I can't tell if I've got it. This is a magnetic tip too, so sometimes if you've used steel wire, it pulls it out, but that is probably not the case. I probably used copper here. There we go. I think that's one solder cup clean. I'm having real trouble determining if I've done that or not. I think I may have bridged something there. Living with a disability like this, guys, it's different every morning you get up, and it's real trouble. Normally I could read the numbers on the end of that, but I can't. I might have to get the microscope out. We're going to do a little bit of note taking here, and we're going to get our plug and sketch this out. So we've got our plug with a little dip in the bottom. I know it's not the best, but this will give us an indication of our 4 pins here and what says it's what. This is why I use blue tack, guys. It holds things down. So what have we got? We've got plus on this side, minus on that side. We'll draw a little leader to each one, and that one and that one. And it says this one is in and this one is out. So not going to matter too much if I get those 2 middle ones backwards, but it will if I get those 2 backwards. So anyway, let's look up the diagram on the net and we'll draw ourselves a little diagram here. Before I do a pin out, I need to check the continuity of these things. Now, I think I might use my good continuity meter. Wait on a minute. My desk control panel, or at least one element of it, this unit here, I built in a continuity test into this bottom section here. So we're going to use that to do a pin out here. So I'm going to piss this off out of the way. We're going to dump a bit of blue tack center screen, and we're going to get our 2 connections here. Alright, so now, crap, I'm having trouble telling colour today. This is not good. Alright, so the green one, which one is green? So green is our O. So we'll note that down here. O is GRN for green. My handwriting's messy. Let's go black. What's the betting? Let's just take your bets now that black is going to be the negative. Yep. Right. So black is neg or black. Okay. And I reckon equally the bets are probably going to be that red is the plus or positive. It is indeed. So that is red, and that would only mean that white is going to be in or I. Indeed. Okay, and they all work too, so it's WHT. That is actually USB colors, which being that it's a bus system a bit like serial interface is not surprising. Alright, let's look up our RS232 pin out. Doing to a DB9 plug, which we're going to do a very angular DB9 here that probably doesn't look right because I've got dexterity problems today. And if you're looking at this up real close, you can probably see my hand shaking. So these are DB9, and the 9 stands for 9 pins, which means 5 rows and 5 pins on the top and 4 pins on the bottom. Now, we are looking at a female plug, which means that if I can look at this really closely, you know, I'm going to need some help with my eyes. One moment. I'm going to have to admit defeat and use a magnifying glass, but this one has lights under the bottom that have apparently been running for days. Okay, so here, I was reading them upside down. So pin 1 is on the bottom left. If I've got it that way, let's turn it the way up my diagram does. No, so that means pin 1 is here. I did do it right. And that would mean that pin 5 is on this end, and the rest I can extrapolate from there. I just want to double check this bottom row because it's been a while, and you are 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's our serial connection, and that is an F male. Sorry about my crappy handwriting, guys. It has gone to hell since I've had some brain lesions. Not much I can do about it. I'm just struggling through as I've got it. So let's actually check what our pinouts are up on here. So it looks like, now the problem I've got is I don't know if this is in and out for the device or in and out for the serial port. I'm probably going to get it wrong. Either way, I've got about a 50% chance of getting it right, provided I get the power correct. So 5 is a ground. So if we take our neg off to ground, that will be what we want. And we're probably not going to need to connect the positive power because we're not powering it through the socket. Now 2 and 3 are RX and TX, so receive and send. So pin 2 is RX, receive data, and pin 3 here is transmit data, TX. So that's the computer transmitting. And so if we assume that that is an input for the device, we connect U round to transmit, and we pop U over here and go all the way around up to the O. So that would then mean that 5 is black, and that would then mean that 3 is white, and that would then mean that 2 is then green. I think that's going to be a positive voltage in reference to ground, and I don't think I need to connect the other wire. That seems to be about normal from what my experience is. We'll try this and test it out. If nothing else, we're not going to have any real damaging data levels as long as we've found what ground is. Alright, let's move over to the hard part. Just to back up my suspicions here, I'm going to look at the back of this socket and see the pins that I have used already on this one, which would appear to have been, oh, this is the back of the socket, so yeah, that would appear to be pin 5, pin 2 and pin 3 that I've already used, along with clear to send, I think, which, yes, pin 8, clear to send. So that has been used as a data cable before. So that, I believe, is pin 5 on the very corner because it is mirrored from that. So that will be pin 5 right there. Let's get our black wire onto that. Sorry if I'm rambling a lot, but I'm struggling and talking helps me pass some time so I look like I'm doing better than I really am. Alright, so I've just trimmed this with a little bit of length. We're going to flip this over to make it easier to get those two other leads oriented later. Giving this a bit of a hook, and just double checking black was in pin 5 position. Now this is not strictly recommended, but this solder cup is already full of solder, so I'm going to put a little bit of solder on here to help its thermal conductivity a little bit, and we're going to try not to shake our way into a dry solder joint. I'll hit this solder cup up and we'll drop this wire in that cup and let it cool. Alright, not bad for somebody that can't see what they're doing, but I can't see how good it is. You guys can probably see better than me. Monsieur Red is going to get out of the way. Now, let's see. So, this way meant that pin 3 was white. So green goes to pin 2, which is the furthest away from pin 5. So you go over to this one. Over here. So let's stick you down a bit firmer so you stay where we put you. And my hands are super shaky. Oh, this is the worst they've been in a while. I hope that Tysa Brie actually does its job this time. Now I can't use tweezers in this because I'll mess it up even worse. A little bit more fresh solder here, and also while the flux is still flowing, because I use flux core solder. Flux core lead solder too. It's evil. Okay. Now to double check my pin connections. So I can just make out the numbers. So we have pin 5 on that corner, which correlates to black. Now we have pin 2 and 3. So is that pin 1? Oh, it's the ones around the side. So pin 2 is the second one in, and that is green. And pin 2 should be green. Okay, I think I've got that correct as per my diagrams. I'm going to tape this little red wire out of the way, just so we don't get any accidental shorts. I'm going to plug it in just like this and see if it works. If it does, then I'll put the clamshell on it. Right, the next problem we have is getting behind my machine in amongst all the cables. I designed this desk for a top-mounted power supply, and this one's bottom-mounted. I need to get a right-angle plug for this. I can't set it back as far as I'd like. There's our new serial card. Nicely at the bottom where it's easy to access. And it plugs in. Okay, now let's go back to the desk. This part of the video takes place on the messy side of my desk. So let's see, let's plug her in and we'll power it up. This is the side of my desk where all the things that I'm about to work on, or think I am within the next couple of days, that get left there for like 6 months, and it just daily it builds up. I can clean this and then within a day it'll be messy again. Creative mind problems. Alright, so we've got our GPS fired up. I'm going to import everything directly into Google Earth. So let's go over to Google Earth. I've fired up the GPS section in here, and I don't want my waypoints. I just want my tracks off here, and they can come in as KML's tracks. I don't really care, and they can adjust the ground level. That's fine. Let's let it go through and see. It should try COM2 at some point. Go COM2, and it should take a little while. We'll see if this works. It hasn't immediately kicked off COM2, so that could be a good sign. We'll see what's happened. While we're waiting for that to download, and it is still downloading some 10 minutes later, so I think it's definitely getting data strings off, or KML strings off it, I want to explain the history of this. I just thought that some of you might have thought I was trying to plug a tractor OBD system directly into a serial port. That's not the case. I have an ELM327 universal data tool that uses a DB9 connector for all its different adapters. But as I found out, the CAN bus system used by these tractors is much more proprietary than the ELM327 will understand. I need something much more specific, along with some special software. This was something like 15 years ago when I tried to do this. I've since discovered that also a lot of those manufacturers reserve the right to repair. Like, they won't even let you get a diagnostic trouble code off the machine or off your tractor to find out what's wrong with it. To even tell the dealer, you've got to wait till somebody comes out with a special tool to plug into it to even read the fault codes. You can't even find out that you've got a sensor fault on the thing to fix it. And apparently I've drawn with pen on my finger. Goes with the problem of not being able to feel your fingers. Oh, okay, well, I've been yakking. Haha, it loaded a track with, what have we got here? One track with 2,990 track points. That sounds about right. That sounds like 2 days worth of track points for me. All right, I really need to get some screen capture software installed on this new system. But we can see from here it has correctly recorded the track points. And yes, I'm a little bit zoomed in, but I'm trying to be a little sensitive about exactly where this happened. Right, so let's salvage this clamshell. And I am now really shaky, and I need to move this camera so that you guys can see what's going on here and see my lovely black t-shirt in the background. It is faded and shrunk and long overdue for replacement. Oh, I can barely even get a screwdriver in the top there. I'm going to have a trouble getting a screw if I can't get the screwdriver in the hole. Alright. It's even worse when you can't unscrew things, because there are some things in this world that don't unscrew. My apprentice is proof of that. Anyway, let's get this clamshell over. Ew, I hot glued. Ew, this was in my hot glue era. I still use a bit of hot glue, but nothing like this. Oh, yuck. Okay, I must okay, the thought has instantly occurred to me that I'm probably going to have to use that again, because there's no strain relief in here. But we might be able to do this a little more intelligently. Now our red wire is going to get in the way here. So we might do a couple of quick little tricks here. And I'm sorry this is going to be a lengthy, ranty sort of video, but it's the best I can manage right at the second. I'm trying to film on one of my days where I have bad MS. For the most part, it's pretty good. But today, it's not my friend. Although it was my friend when I applied for disability insurance. I had 2 super funds, and both of them pretty well ate all my money. Supposedly industry super funds. But I found that, here's a handy tip, guys. If you had TPD insurance on your super fund, which is mandatory, I believe, you can claim against a disability provided you were covered at the time that you were covered. Provided you were covered at the time that the disability occurred. Even if you have no funds left and your super fund is closed, you can still claim. And you can claim on multiple funds. I claimed on at least 2 of them, which has meant I've been able to get a lot of the stuff that you're seeing in these donations and delivery videos, including paying off all my bills and debts and loans. It's taken a lot of stress out of life, which is one of the things that exacerbates some of my MS symptoms. Not to mention my oldest apprentice as well, which she's not real keen on being an apprentice, so what can you do? You just got to go along with it, I guess. Anyway, we're going to use some Fable hot glue in this. And I'm going to stick it down with blue tack because my fumbling, shaking fingers are not going to be my friend. Let's do this. Normally, when you do these right, there's a strain relief that goes in here as well, or a little clamp that fits in this little slot here. We don't have that. We're salvaging bits because lockdown and all the rest. And I don't really want to go up to the electronics shop right at the moment when I think I'm probably not safe to be driving. I'm trying to be responsible, guys. So we're going to hold you in with a little bit of hot glue, a sensible amount this time, and then we're going to put a little blob on here to pretend to be a strain relief. Why am I melting hot glue with a gas torch, you say? Well, one, I want to stink out my room or my work area, one and the same, because I'm still living poverty pack these days. The other reason is that glue guns keep blowing up and I can't find a quality one. So if you guys have got a suggestion for a quality glue gun, be my guest and fire away in the comments. Would be greatly appreciated. Plus this is also quick when you only want to do a quick little thing here like this. I'm hoping this is going to be enough. The main idea of this clamshell here is to grip the flanges of this, which it occurs to me that I probably need to get some screws to go through with this. But anyway, it grips the flanges of the or the flange of the connector here, which means when you're pulling it out by the connector, you're pulling the connector itself and not the cable, and thus ripping the connections out. So for that purpose, this will probably do just fine. We'll put our screws back in, and hopefully we will have padded this video out. Now we'll do this. Sounds like my apprentice is sneaking up to try and help. I see a shadow behind me at the moment, so I think there is an apprentice lurking nearby. Anyway, go in here. Normally I'd put these in opposite directions, but I don't care today. This will work. I'm going to do a test connection and see if I can remove that and make sure all my pins are connected, but I think this might be almost nearly the end of the video. Alright, so my apprentice did indeed sneak in, so she's going to be camera woman for a little bit. But this is my completed cable. I've got my connector one end, my serial port the other, and no fancy electronics needed in between. I think most of that is supported inside the device itself. So that's pretty well it, and we'll probably go over the version. This is a Garmin Etrex. I think it's the base model one. So it works quite well, and it has for many years, and it's very efficient on batteries. But this is how you do it. And I'm being handed some hand sanitizer because I'm told we need to be doing this. Oh, and I have, oh, that was painful. I have some open cuts on my hand. Oh, that was painful. Okay, so we're going to call this quits on this video. I hope this has been handy for you. If you've got an old Etrex, maybe this will help you get some data off it. There is one trick I will show you before I end this video. Alright, I had some of this stuff that was unpopulated, but this is called prototyping board. You can use this to make a very simple little connector that slots into the back of the Etrex as well, if you want to try and make one of these leads from scratch and you can't find one of these. So keep in mind, prototype board is handy. If you want to see me make one of them, let me know and I'll try and do that, but I don't know if this video will be that popular. In any case, I'll see you all in the next video. I'm turning my noisy fans off, and I'll see you next time.
Bye!
That's my apprentice saying bye.
Uh-oh.
See you.
That's what we forgot it.
Did we? Oh, we're going into the outtakes. My apprentice wanted to demonstrate, or wanted me to demonstrate, a little colour changing thing, the waterproof light that she likes. Here you go, apprentice.
Thank you, bye.